to the heavens. Jesus be the center. It's all about you. Yes, it's all about you. From my heart to the heavens. Jesus be the center. It's all about you. Yes, it's all about you. At the center of it all. At the center of it all. At the center of it all. Thank you, Jesus.
That should be our prayer. That didn't mean we're going to talk about hell this morning, but it might come up. Let's open our Bibles this morning to the 4th chapter of Mark. Last Sunday evening, we looked at what is commonly called the parable of the sower. More correctly would be called the parable of the soils, precipitated by the varied response that Jesus has been getting. The religious folks don't even give him a chance. They're like the dirt in the road where a seed has no chance of sprouting. Then there's the stony soil where there's a thin layer of soil and a layer of rock just an inch or two below that, and the seed comes up quick because in the spring the sun heats that thin layer of dirt and the rock under it gets hot, and with just the least little bit of moisture those seeds will sprout right up, but they can't produce anything because no root system can get established. There are the hard-hearted hearers. They're the shallow-hearted hearers. They're the preoccupied-hearted hearers. Some of the seed fell among the thorns. It was already had stuff growing and stuff. Lots of people in the middle of their life not willing to give anything up. Want to add a little Jesus, and that's not how it works. He doesn't want to be first in your life by a nose. He wants to be everything. Finally, the prepared soil that brought forth fruit. And the point of this is, a true conversion is not about how high you jump, how loud you shout, whether you swung from 3 or 4 chandeliers or danced on the piano, or whether you fell out in the middle of the floor crying. A true salvation experience always produces the fruit of a changed life. Long term. If you had something and lost it, it wasn't eternal. By definition, eternal means for how long? Right on, yes. Well, 4 little word pictures in the first part of chapter 4 that lead us into 4 miracle pictures that we have in the closing verses of chapter 4 and throughout chapter 5. And here are these 4 miracles partially illustrate the stories about a changed life. But they move the point further that salvation is deliverance. When you are rescued, you've been delivered. And we see, beginning with chapter 4, verse 35, going all the way through chapter 5, 4 ways that Jesus delivers us. If you want to get a head start on your note taking, here they are. He delivers us from sin's peril, that is, from danger. He delivers us from sin's power, second story, from demons. He delivers us from sin's plight, third story, disease. And He delivers us from sin's penalty, fourth story, death. Interestingly, the third and fourth story are interwoven with each other. Let's look at Jesus the Deliverer, part 1. We'll look at the deliverance from sin's power tonight. Next Sunday we'll look at deliverance from sin's plight and sin's penalty. Sin's peril this morning. The same day, now this goes back through those parables. Jesus has been sitting in the boat, backed off a few yards from the side of the Sea of Galilee where all this multitude was, so that Jesus could have some room. Also, on the water, sound carries pretty good. And it gave Jesus' voice a little more audibility, I'm sure, to the crowds. And without even coming ashore, the disciples and Jesus go on across the Sea of Galilee. Now there's 13 men, grown men, in one little small fishing boat. And so it has a full load already. Keep that in mind. And the same day, verse 35, when the evening was come, He saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took Him even as He was in the ship. That is, just like He didn't go ashore. And there were also with Him other little ships or little boats. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship or boat, so that it was now full. Literally, it was already being filled. And He was in the hinder part, or the stern of the ship or the boat, asleep on a pillow. And they awake Him. Notice that historical present tense, told in the present tense, though it happened in the past. They awaken Him and keep on saying to Him, Master, carest Thou not that we perish? And He arose and rebuked, that's a strong word, the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace. Now this is not the word for peace that's generally in the Bible. What He said was, Silence! And be still, which is a lot stronger than, you tell you. My mama, I'd be sitting up, sort of sitting on the pew by her, and she'd say, Be still. This word, be still, literally means to put a muzzle on a dog. Be muzzled. He says, Silence, be muzzled. And the wind ceased. And there was a great calm, or there became a great calm. Picture that now. And He said unto them, Why is it that you are so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceeding. Literally, they feared with a great fear. And kept on saying, in perfect tense, to one another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey Him? They're voicing the question that's already been voiced. Who is this guy? What new thing is this? For even the demons obey Him. What is this? He teaches as one having authority, and not as the scribes back in chapter 1. And the suspense is building that messianic secret. Who is this guy? And there are going to be various answers. Only one of them's right, folks. Sorry. There are multiple choices, but only one correct answer. Jesus has been teaching all day. Giving them words, giving them word pictures, telling them stories. One place says, without a parable, he spoke not unto them, back in verse 34 of this same chapter. And then he expounded all things to his disciples when they were by themselves. What a privilege to be in the inner circle. But what a responsibility goes with it. And what a rebuke when he says, how is it that you don't have faith? When they've had it explained. The boat is a few yards off the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus says, let's go on over to the other side of the sea. Perhaps he wants to spend a little time with these disciples explaining the parable of the sower, which we've already been given. But he put it there next to the telling of it so it would help us as we read it to get the full picture. Perhaps he wants to take a little break from the crowds that have been coming to the house where they couldn't even eat a meal. Perhaps he wants to get off with the disciples and do some in-depth teaching and praying. They're going across the Sea of Galilee. It's late in the evening. Sea of Galilee is in a very low fault line on the earth. In fact, from the Sea of Galilee, there's another little lake up to the north of that. And straight down the Sea of Galilee, Jordan River to the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on the face of the planet. And that's why it's called the Dead Sea, because water can't run downhill from the lowest place. And so it just gathers, and all of the mineral content of what comes from those all up north has just gathered there and gathered there and gathered there. Sea of Galilee is not really high elevation either, but to the north are all these mountains, like Mount Hermon and some others. Late in the day, the air along the surface of the Sea of Galilee has been heated up. And as night falls, those thermal currents come down the mountains as the air cools and it comes down. And that cold air encounters that hot air and it causes turbulence. And we'll not go any further than that because I'm not a meteorologist or even a meteorite. But bad storms can come up real fast on the Sea of Galilee. Just like in your life. You can be sitting here on Sunday morning, enjoying and reflecting on the Sunday school class and enjoying the music and the participating in the worship, and before you get home, it can get real bad. Some of y'all were here in May of 2005 when two ladies, I greeted them both coming out the door. Neither one of them made it home, except they went to their real home from a car wreck on the way after church, just 5 minutes later. We don't know what's next. The longer you live, the more you find out how severe as well as how sudden storms can come up in your life. There are the disciples and Jesus, a little small boat, and there's some other little boats around. They're not going to be any good. They're not going to be able to help them. Jesus is asleep in the back of the boat. By the way, he doesn't even wake up. He's not a bit worried. Even when he's asleep, he has the situation well in hand. Has his head on a pillow, and again, he's tired. Takes a lot out of you. They took him just like he was. He didn't go get ready, didn't go eat supper. They came right on from teaching, going across the Sea of Galilee, and he takes a break in the back of the boat and is asleep. And there arose a great storm. A lot of great things in this chapter. Not all of them are good. There is a great storm. Then we'll see there's a great fear. Then we'll see there's a great calm. Then we'll see there's a great question. And finally there'll be a great mystery. Who is this guy? A great storm. We're told in the text, and there arose a great storm of wind. I don't care for a whole lot of wind. I don't know about you. You know, it can't even be too windy to fly a kite. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of wind. There's a great storm. It came up suddenly. It was also dangerous. Look what it says. We're given right much detail in just one verse. There arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship. Here are the waves hitting the sides of the boat. Now, when it says ship, you got to think small boat, about 20-footer. With 13 pretty good sized men in there. Waves beating over the sides coming in. Just that quick. Wind came up, couldn't do anything, tossed like a matchstick. And already it's being filled up. We know what happens to a boat when it fills up with water, don't we? Yeah. And my fishing boat has got foam, in the seats. It ain't supposed to sink. Of course, Titanic wasn't supposed to. I don't want to find out. So it's dangerous. Let me tell you something. The storms of life can be very dangerous. Not everything that happens to you as a Christian is good. Sometimes we misquote Romans 8:28. It doesn't say all things are good to them that love God, does it? No. It says, and we know, I like that part, that all things work together for good to the ones that love God, to the ones who are the called ones. That's Christians, according to His purpose. If you are a follower of Jesus, if He is your Lord and Savior, if His Spirit has come to live in your heart, if you have experienced the new birth, He has a plan that He is working out in your life, and He intends to use these storms in a good way, but the storms themselves are not good. It is not good when somebody goes and shoots up a church full of people. It is not good when nations declare war on each other and our young people are sent off to get wounded and maimed and killed. It's not good. Lots of things that happen. It is not good when the doctor says, he said this very thing to a lady. I might have told you. Christmas Eve, 1997, I was summoned to the hospital by the president of our choir. She wasn't the choir director, she was and choir made their decisions, as a congregational Baptist church. And she was the president. When the choir would meet and make decisions about things, she would preside. Could you come to the hospital? This is early afternoon. I went. She told me what time to be there. I got there. Their son that lived in Charlotte, which was this was up in Silva in the mountains. It was a couple of hours away their son lived. And he was there. And the husband was there. And everybody's there was a pink elephant in the room, if you know what I'm talking about. Everybody's, it's just sort of kind of not real comfortable. The doctor came in and told the lady, you have pancreatic cancer. We can't do anything about it. They're at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta. There's an experimental surgery that they can do. It was Christmas Eve, remember. It's going to be April before they can schedule you for that. Because they got to get people from all over the country to come, that do this thing. I guarantee you that was the longest January, February, March, and into April for that lady. Christmas wasn't much fun, I'm sure, at their house. that year. Lots of difficulties, lots of storms, and they can come up all of a sudden and you didn't know it was coming. A dread for the phone to ring in the middle of the night. Pastor, our son, killed in a car wreck. I was in my first church, and there was a lady that came. She actually, her name was on the roll. She'd been inactive for many years, but she got to coming. She was a little different. Not long after she started coming, I got a phone call 3 a.m. This was before, portable phones and stuff. I had an old rotary thing. I only had one. Stumbled in, stumped my toe getting to the phone. Answered the phone, and it was this lady. She said, Pastor, I just thought I'd ask you if it's okay if I bring a banana pudding to the covered dish dinner Sunday. You don't ever know. Some sudden things are good. I like banana pudding. I didn't really want to talk about banana pudding at 3 a.m, but there you have it. Usually at night it's not good. All of a sudden, a great storm. Sudden, it was dangerous. Boat was now full of water. Jesus sleeping in the back of the boat. Still asleep, and they woke him up. A great fear. A great fear. Look what they say to Jesus. They don't say, Jesus, we wish you could do something about this. Is that what they say? They say, you don't care. Cut him to the heart. Notice that. Don't you care that we are perishing? You laying there sleeping. You don't care about us. What do we jump to when some storm comes? You ever say, well, why did this have to happen to me? God, where are you at? Thought you was going to take care of me. Thought everything was going to be... Let me tell you something. If you thought that the Christian life was going to be a bed of roses without thorns, you have another thought coming. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, Job said. But the Lord delivers them out of them all. Doesn't mean He delivers you as soon as you want to be delivered out of all. He goes with those disciples through another storm and gets them safely through, but without stopping the storm. He doesn't always stop it in the middle like He does this time. Again, these disciples are baby believers. I mean, He says, where's your faith? Another sub-theme is arising in this book, the dullness of the disciples. Part of the time they're disciples, most of the time they're disciples. Just like me. I'm glad He'll take any of us. He takes us where we are and then summons us along the trail. He doesn't say keep the rules, keep the standards I've set up, and then we'll talk about letting you in. Great storm, great fear. Jesus, sleep on a pillow. They awake Him. Don't you care? Of course He cares. He also has the situation well in hand. He's not a bit worried. Not one bit. The fact that He can sleep through this. He arose and rebuked, strong word, the wind, and said to the sea, silence, put a muzzle on it. And there the wind ceased, and there happened a great calm. Or there came to be a great calm. Or there became a great calm. Could be translated. Was is not quite precise enough. The point of it is this. Does water stop sloshing as soon as you quit shaking the bucket? No. I remember when the pump would give out, or when it get below about 9 degrees. When I was growing up, the pipes would freeze. We pumped water from a spring down in the edge of a swamp about 250 yards, thought it was miles, behind the house. That pump fed the chicken houses. We had running water in the chicken houses before we had it in the house, because we had to. That was the living, how we made a living, you know. When the temperature got below about 9 degrees, we'd have a pipe to freeze or something, and it seemed like it. I'm like my daddy telling about walking to school every day uphill both ways, and it snowed every day, and carried my lunch in a lard bucket. Okay, I guess I've arrived at seniority. But we'd have to carry water from the spring when the pipes were froze, or when the pump gave out. And I can remember it being real cold, sometimes snowy or icy, and the water sloshing out of the buckets on your legs. You know, you get home and you're lucky if you had 3/4 of a bucket. And you set those buckets down in the kitchen floor, and the water, you know. Jesus told it to stop, and it went whoosh. Does that happen? No. Does it happen when you say, let there be light? Go try it out in your living room when you get home. And it just pops on. Now, you might have one of them touch lamps or something. You might have some electronic gizmo. I don't have one of those. Do it in your neighbor's house. Siri, turn on the light. Or whatever her name is. Jesus did that. It wasn't just that the storm was about over by the time they got him woke up, and he rubbed his eyes, and about that time, and then he said, I quit, I don't want it. I want to sleep some more. Yeah, and then lay back down, and the storm kind of got over. That's not the story. Jesus said, silence, put a muzzle on it, and it went a great calm. Just like that. After they accused him of not caring. Is that grace or is that grace? He didn't say, now, ask me nicely. Put y'all in time out in the front of the boat. 1, 2.5. You don't care. And he got up and just like that. We don't know the mind of God a lot of times. But He is always there, and He always responds. And He always takes care of us. But He wants us to learn what we're supposed to know out of it. A great calm. And then they are afraid. They thought they were afraid in the storm. They're more afraid after the storm's over. Well, I know how that is. Been a time or two, you know. Boy, that was close. And after it's over with, it scares you to death, you know. That's not what we're talking about here. They're more afraid by what Jesus does than by what the storm is doing. Because it instills a sense of awe in them. You just say that word awe. You don't say that word with your mouth closed, do you? Because that word comes from bat. Yeah. And that's what they were doing. A great calm. And he said to them, turned to them, why are you so afraid? How is it that you don't have faith? He sees right into their hearts what the problem is. Remember? A couple chapters earlier. Man with a dried up hand in the synagogue, and the Pharisees sitting around. I wonder if he'll heal him today and break the law of Moses, and we'll have him on some charges. And if he was of God, he would fit into our religious rules. And I wonder what he's going to do. And Jesus knew their thoughts. Looked around on them with anger, being grieved at the hardness of their hearts. Saw right through them. Sees right through those disciples. Sees right through me. Sees right through you. And a lot of times we do not pass the daily quizzes in our day-to-day life. Why are you so afraid? How is it that you don't have faith? Y'all don't have faith. And then they feared with a great fear. Feared exceedingly, King James says. What kind of man is this? And they kept on saying it to one another. Imperfect tense. It's not just they said it and let it go. They kept on. Who is this guy? You know. Reminds me of the guys in the first Rambo movie going up the mountain trying to catch that guy. Who is this guy? And they're saying it about Jesus. Even the winds and the seas obey the forces of nature. This world is a dangerous place. Now, not every dangerous thing that happens comes to you because you've committed some great sin. Just because you get sick doesn't mean God is punishing you for something you did. But we live in a system that's infected. This whole world, Paul says the whole creation is groaning against the day of redemption. And there's all kinds of dangerous things that come upon us simply because we're here breathing infected air, as it were. And we're part of a system that's fallen and broken. And everywhere you look, it's broken. It's a beautiful world, isn't it? Think what it would have been like if we hadn't broken it. Jesus says, why don't you have any faith? And they fear exceedingly now. They're more afraid than they were before. Who is this man that even the wind and the seas obey him? Over the next 3 chapters, they're going to be mulling this over, and we're going to see some offered up answers. Herod's going to say it's John the Baptist come back from the grave after I beheaded him. It's going to be he's Elijah or Jeremiah, one of the prophets. Peter's going to finally get the answer right. You're the Christ. But he doesn't know what it means. Dullness of the disciples. And Jesus takes us anyway. Every one of us that'll come to Him. We'll see that illustrated tonight with this demonized man that's got a whole legion of demons in him. And all he had to do is come to Jesus. And Jesus took care of it. Jesus takes care of these storms. The disciples didn't ask Him to fix the storm. They just wanted Him to be ready to get His life jacket on with them. You don't care that we perish. Jesus did what they never expected. He showed that He's sovereign over storms and dangers and perils. If you are in the boat with Jesus, if He's the captain of your ship, He's not going to let anything happen to you. Even if it's real bad. Even if it's real dangerous. Even if it looks destructive. He's going to get you through that. And He's going to use that in your life to produce faith. And to draw you into that closeness with you and knock some of your rough edges off. And polish you up so you can reflect His light. Those disciples never forgot this. I can promise you they didn't. And they go around asking a great question. Who is this guy? That's the best question you can ever ask. You might have grown up in Sunday school assuming, that Grandma told you right. He's the Son of God. He is. But you need to come to that realization on your own. Because when you stand before the throne and He asks you, why should I let you into my heaven? It's not going to be because Grandma said. You heard about the guys that were marooned on a desert island? 3 of them. And no ship came along. And finally they had them a little 3-man meeting one day and said, this is getting bad. We don't have anything to eat and there's not any water. And one of them said, I think we ought to pray. And then they looked at each other and, anybody know how to pray? And the first guy said, well, I don't. We never went to church or anything when I was growing up. And the second one said, well, I don't either. We never went to church or anything. And the third one said, well, we didn't either, but I grew up across the road from a church. Everybody bow your head. B19, I-23, N7. That's not what our Lord is looking for. And you can't get there on somebody else's or because you was across the street or something. The question is going to be, do you know me as your Lord? Because the others He's going to say, depart from me. I never knew you. Do you have a saving relationship with Jesus that has changed your life? That's the question. And if you have anything else that you're thinking about offering up, it will not do. Now's your chance to get the answer right before time. So you'll have it handy and ready when the time does come. I don't know what's going on in your life, but if you are a follower of Jesus, if He's the captain of your ship, He'll get you through it. But you might want to talk to Him. You might want to talk to Him and appeal to the fact that He does care. And that He can help. And if you don't know Him as Lord, I'll be glad to show you how you can as we stand together.
Hymn 308, Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior. Hymn 308, Pass Me Not.
If God's put it on your heart to become a member of this church, any way we take members, I'll be glad to talk with you about that as well.
Pass me not, O gentle Savior, hear my humble cry, while on others thou art calling, do not pass me by. Throne of mercy, find a sweet relief. contrition. Help my unbelief. Savior, Savior, hear my humble cry. While on others thou art calling, do